All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Mrs. Prenovo. I'm a school counselor at Gahanna Lincoln High School. I primarily work with students that have the last name OS through SN. So if you have a student within that alpha, you may have already spoken to me at some point, chatted, or I've met with your child. Joining me as well tonight is Melissa Monig. She is another counselor of ours, and she works with the last names, I hope I get this right, FP through KE.
Yep.
Good. And she's going to be helping me out tonight as we go through the presentation. If you guys have questions that pop up, Melissa will do her best to try to answer as many as she can. And then when I'm finished going through the presentation, we'll have time for a little Q&A, and Melissa will share some of your questions with me so that we can answer to the best of our ability. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, thanks for joining us tonight. Our goal tonight is to go over a few things. We're going to be talking about graduation requirements. With starting next year with our class of 2023 and beyond, there are some new graduation requirements. So we're going to highlight those a little bit tonight. That includes those competency scores and the seals that they have to earn. We're also going to be talking a little bit about planning for applying to college. Talk about doing some research, visiting, and we'll talk a little bit about ACT and SAT testing. We'll look at some options that many of our students have used or have visited or attended through community colleges and some of the career tech programs that have been popular. We'll highlight the students that are interested in joining the military. And then we will also go over the Naviance. If you haven't heard of Naviance, this is going to be something that becomes very familiar to you, especially if you are parents of juniors here within the next year. And then we'll just kind of go through a brief timeline. Again, if you are parents of juniors, give you an idea of what maybe you should be working on and looking at now. And then moving throughout the rest of this year, what some things maybe you can start to plan for and prepare to get ready to apply to college. So first, let's start with these graduation requirements. We're a real big advocate for our students to take some ownership in knowing what it is they need to graduate, knowing what classes they need to take, and what classes they've already taken, determining whether or not they've met this idea of competency, and have they earned their seals that are required. And then we encourage them to work closely with the school counselors. We're here to help. So while we also keep track and work with our students to make sure they're taking the courses they need, we're paying attention to their tests that they're taking, those end of course tests, which a lot of students are taking, started taking this week. Looking at those scores we'll keep track of, but we also encourage them to be a part of that. So we'll be going into classrooms actually starting tomorrow in our junior classes, and we'll talk a lot more with the juniors tomorrow regarding some of these pieces as well. So just a quick overview of the classes that students are required to take for graduation. They do need 4 English credits. They need 4 math credits, 3 science credits, 3 social studies. We have some mandatory electives, including that visual performing arts, health, speech, PE, and financial literacy, which could be personal finance or economics. And then they have need to get 3 other electives. A lot of times those can fall in our world languages, business classes, engineering. We do have a diverse course of study with lots of options that can fall into that elective category. Not many changes on here in terms of what the state requires. These are pretty much stayed the same. What has changed is if you have had a student that is graduating this year or has graduated, is this idea of competency. Before, they were taking these end of course tests through the state and hoping to get enough points that added up to 18 out of 7 tests. Well, the state got rid of that and said, we no longer want the tests in terms of points to add up to a certain number. We're really looking at what is it that we want them to show mastery in, that they have are competent in moving out of high school. And so the first part of that is with our EOC testing, and that comes from the Algebra 1 and the ELA 2 test. The Algebra 1 test is given primarily freshman year, and then ELA 2 is given primarily sophomore year. At the end of the year, so like I said, right around now, our students are starting to do their EOC tests. In order to meet competency, they need to score a 684 or higher. Again, we have record of that, and we do keep record of that within their Infinite campus. Unfortunately, parents, I don't believe, have access to see that. So if you ever have questions, please feel free to reach out to your student's school counselor, and we're happy to help you with that. So on top of meeting the competency, there are other options. So sometimes students in testing don't always mix well, and we have students that have struggled. So they've offered other options for meeting competency. One is if they have chosen to enlist in the military, or they've completed college coursework in math or English, and that would be a C or higher, and in the college coursework. So that includes our CCP classes. If you've had students take CCP Comp, that is an English class, and CCP Math, unfortunately, we don't offer that here in person at the high school, but we have had students that take CCP Math online through Columbus State. The other area in which they can meet competency is to demonstrate 2 career-focused activities. This is not something typical for our GLHS students. I'll say a majority of our students are going to earn their competency through the EOC tests with Algebra 1 and ELA 2. The third thing that's required in order to be ready or meet the requirements for graduation is this new idea of SEALs. So just to kind of review, to start, we need to make sure we have the 20 credits of those courses we showed back here. And then we have the competency they have to meet. So there's 2 things. And then there's the third thing, which is the SEALs. You'll notice that we're going to talk about 2 different kinds of SEALs. We have Ohio SEALs, those are our state SEALs. And then we'll also talk about local SEALs. And I'll get into that a little in just a little bit. In order to graduate, students need to have 2 SEALs. Students can earn more than 2, but the minimum is 2 SEALs. One of those SEALs has to be from this list, the state SEAL. They can have 2 state SEALs, they can have a state SEAL and a local SEAL, but at least one has to be from this list. Again, this is something where we really encourage families and our students, again, that ownership piece of understanding where they're at in terms of their graduation, to reach out to their school counselors, because this is very new for families, students, and even ourselves, and knowing, how to correctly guide them in the right direction. And so we're all working through that together. So for the Ohio SEALs, we've primarily, most of these reflect either those end of course tests and that they take, or they've added some other, I would say, stipulations that could also help to earn them a SEAL. So the citizenship SEAL, you'll notice that says that EOC test, if they score a 3 on the US history EOC test and a 3 on the government test, they've earned that citizenship SEAL. We do have a good handful of students that take our AP US history class. So if they earn at least a 2 on their AP exam, that also gives them the citizenship SEAL. And then they recently changed this third item, which is as long as they earn a B or higher in US history and US government, they can earn the citizenship seal. Science seal is very similar, except we're looking at biology for the EOC test. They still will allow a 2 on an AP exam. We do offer AP Bio. And then they also can earn a B or higher in any advanced science. The honors diploma seal is basically you earn the seal if you've earned an honors diploma. Honors diplomas, we share with students, this is typically a personal goal for our students. When they go to apply to college, they have not yet graduated, therefore they have not earned an honors diploma. So they end up getting accepted into college before receiving any particular honors diploma. So we really encourage them, or try to let them know that that is a personal goal for them, trying to earn those honors diplomas. There will be a stamp or seal on their diploma. It does go on their final transcript. And then, of course, there are certain cords that go along with the honors diploma for graduation. There are 5 different honors diplomas. All of those and the requirements for those are listed in our program of studies on our school website. So if you're interested in learning more about those, I encourage you to go and look at our program of studies. They will outline all the requirements for those. The seal of biliteracy, again, we're going to look at not only ELA, but we're going to look at world language proficiency, and that's if they're have reached AP Chinese, AP French, or AP Spanish. Technology seal. Again, a lot of these look very similar. The one that we like to add at the bottom there, if you have a student who's been working or taken our computer science courses, the last 2 courses in that track are our mobile application course and our game design. If you take those courses and earn a B or higher, that will also add a technology seal. We also have the college ready seal, so you can earn certain scores on your ACT or SAT to earn a seal. The industry recognized credential seal, that one's not going to be as common for our students. We may see students earn that seal if they're attending the Career Center and they're taking that the Work Keys exam, and which is where that 12-point industry recognized credential comes from. Then, of course, we've got military enlistment. And as long as they show evidence of their enlistment, that will earn them that seal. And then Ohio Means Jobs. Those are for students that have been working. There is some paperwork that needs to fill out. They do require to have 3 mentors. One has to be a supervisor at the place of employment, and then one needs to be a community member, and another needs to be at school. And so that is another one. So again, that's a lot of information. Hopefully you screenshotted this screen or took a picture of it. It's around in multiple facets on our school website, but this is kind of nice just having it all in one spot. So again, your student does have to earn at least one of these. And then another option is the local seal. So say one of your students has already earned a state seal, and they could actually earn a local seal given these 3 circumstances. So community service seal, if they complete 6 service projects and attend 1 public meeting. Our government courses here at the high school actually have these projects and these volunteer hours embedded in their course. So any student that does take our government should earn this community service seal. Then there's the fine and performing arts seal. If your student has taken 2 credits of any of our VPA courses, then they can earn the performing arts seal. And then student engagement seal is any kind of participation in a sport, band, chorale, or if they've been actively participating in a club outside of school. We would have just ask for some documentation or confirmation from the club's advisor, and then they could earn the student engagement seal. So it's possible between the state seals and the local seals, you might be thinking like, wow, my student probably already has checked off quite a few of these. The state really was trying to, and while adding a lot of options, which can sometimes be overwhelming and make it confusing, it does allow more opportunities for students to be able to graduate and address certain pathways that they're interested in versus just one pathway to graduation. So that is everything in terms of graduation requirements. What we're going to really now delve into is, what's next for your student. We have conversations daily with kiddos that either have no idea what they're doing after high school. They may have a little bit, but they need a little bit more guidance. And some have it completely mapped out. They know what they're going to do, where they're going to apply, and which is great. So our goal tonight is to kind of give you an idea of things to start thinking about, some tasks that you can start doing right away. So the first thing that we'll talk about is, we call it Rivet, which is research, visit, and test. That we'll go through in more depth in a moment. We'll talk about a couple community college options, some technical school options, and then just share more information about if your student's interested in joining the military. So if you have a student that's interested in applying to a four-year college, we recommend that in this order, we do these three things. We want to do our research. We ask students to really try to narrow down their list to their top 5 schools, really looking at, do they have programs I'm interested in? Can I see myself living there? If you're interested in specific extracurriculars, do they offer those? You want to know, again, what's the location like? Is it somewhere you want to be? Is it in a city? Is it suburban or in the middle of nowhere? But obviously, cost plays a big part into where we want to apply. And is that realistic? And then what kind of scholarship opportunities do they have? We believe that if you look through all those kind of criteria that is important in making the decision for the schools, having a top 5 list is a great place to start. We also encourage, and part of that research is to start attending college fairs. Now, I will say with COVID, the college fairs have turned more virtual than in person. So NACAC, and I've put that website there, they've been offering a lot of virtual college fairs. And hopefully they'll be moving to in-person, but there you'll get to meet with different colleges, learn about the schools, which is a great option for getting more information. Once you've researched and really narrowed down maybe what those top 5 schools are, we really encourage students to visit. Again, with COVID, I know that's made things a little more challenging for families and students. And of course, if we're thinking out of state, maybe traveling isn't always an option. So, but a lot of schools now are offering virtual tours. And of course, some are now starting to open up and allowing you to come in person and do tours. So we really encourage you to visit it. Seeing what does the classrooms look like? Do I want to be in an auditorium of 200 people and, a freshman composition class, or is it more a small, and the ratio of teacher to student is a lot smaller? Of course, looking at the residence halls, if you're thinking about living on campus, where will I be eating, the size of the campus, all of these things are important. So while we're doing the research, all those arrowed things on the left there, we might check off all those boxes, but when we go visit, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like a home, because this is a place where your student will be living or potentially be staying for quite a long time. So we really want them to do that research, but also take the time to visit the campus. We also recommend students visit that admissions office and the financial aid office of any school. They will provide you with lots of information. And for financial aid, they can also share information about potential scholarships as well. The next piece would be testing. So this kind of is a gray area right now still. After doing a little bit of research myself, because we went from being completely test optional right in the thick of COVID, and then it started to change a little bit. As COVID got lighter, some universities and colleges took back their test optional and required the ACT or SAT. But what we're also finding out now is there not many of those, because a lot of them, one of the things that have come out of COVID is they've liked their admission process without having those tests. So right now there's over 1,700 colleges and universities that have extended their test optional policy. So honestly, it's a choice. It's a personal choice to take the ACT or the SAT. They both test similar concepts, and all schools take both if you decide to take both. We really encourage you for different resources, and if you are interested in registering for a test, visiting their websites. Juniors every year have the opportunity to take the SAT for free. We are an SAT school, so we do not offer the ACT. But of course, we do, I should say, we are a host of the ACT twice a year. And so they can register through ACT.org and take the ACT at Gahanna. And then other surrounding schools also host the ACT. So I've put on here, over here on the right, these are the remaining SAT and ACT dates of the school year through summer. There will be dates that start to come up in August, September, and October. One of the questions I get often with my students in terms of taking the tests is it tends to take about 4 to 6 weeks to get your scores back. So if we've taken the ACT or the SAT, maybe we weren't happy with the score and we want to take it again, we encourage students to take that no later than probably the beginning of September, if they want to try to get their scores in before the early action deadlines, which I'll talk about in a minute. So for your college, do your research. Again, look at all those things that are really important in choosing a college. Visit the schools, can kind of ask, is this a place I can see myself staying for the next 4 years? And then for ACT or SAT, again, more and more schools are going test optional. And so it's really a matter of preference. So then I tell a lot of students about these two options here. So sometimes we have students that are not quite sure if they're ready to go right into a 4-year college or not, or maybe even tuition and funds plays a role in their decision-making as well. Something that not many of my seniors know about, and we they tend to be very excited about when we talk about it is Columbus State is kind of a best kept secret. It's really grown since just me being in high school. Columbus State now has made partnerships with all of the universities that you see on the right as a part of their preferred pathway program. Their preferred pathway programs, basically with the partnerships of those universities, say if you come and complete your first 2 years here at Columbus State, you can transfer to any one of these colleges seamlessly to complete your bachelor's degree. Now, each partnership is a little different in what that application process looks like to transfer to them. I will tell you, Otterbein University, any student that spends their first 2 years at Columbus State will automatically give them $17,000 when they transfer to Otterbein for their last two. So there's some really great incentives for doing the preferred pathways. The other part of that partnership is these schools say, we will accept, they've outlined what courses you should take at Columbus State. So they will be accepting all of those classes that they take from Columbus State. So there's no concern that a course they took Ohio State or Otterbein won't take. They will take those courses towards that degree. Ohio State Newark has also become a very popular option for our students. It's not as far as I think some students think. It's unlike Columbus State, it does have on-campus housing. And we have a lot of students that unfortunately get deferred to the Newark campus when they've applied for main campus. However, once they go to Newark for a year, they can transfer to OSU's main campus seamlessly. So whether they've applied to main campus and get deferred to Newark, or they're just really interested in starting out at Newark for the first year, you've got smaller class sizes, but you still can experience kind of the campus style life and with the dorms it's really a great option for a lot of my students. They have over 200 programs that you could start at OSU Newark and then finish at OSU Maine. So those are great options if we're not sure we want to jump right into that 4-year college, or again, if it makes sense for them financially to start at somewhere out of Columbus State. And then transfer their last 2 years to one of these schools. More and more students are really looking at our trades. We've got students interested in construction and welding and becoming plumbers and electricians, real estate. All of those things are becoming a lot more popular with our students. And so we have some great resources here in Columbus for students that are interested in a trade to get those specific degrees and skills within a short amount of time. And a lot of these schools offer apprenticeships, internships, and do a lot of job placement. Central Ohio Technical College, that one, we have a lot of students, more of that computer science, looking into the tech field, which is a growing field. Eastland Fairfield has a police officer program that has become something I talk about frequently. They have adult programs there for students after high school. So these are some great options. If there's one that's not on there, I encourage you, again, reach out to school counselors. We're happy to walk you through some of these and help you in researching some options as well if we don't have them. And then is there that thought about potentially joining the military? Okay. We have a couple of things. One, it counts as a one, a seal for students for graduation. And two, it's also allows them to use towards competency. So when we talked about those three things at the beginning, they can earn a seal and earn competency if they are going to join the military. So there's a benefit in that they've already earned then two pieces of their graduation requirements. We encourage them to talk with a recruiter. Often we have recruiters come to the school and set up in our lobby, set up right outside our cafeteria, and talk with students about their options. And if that's something you're interested in, again, talk to the school counselor. We're happy to help with that, and getting them linked up with a recruiter. And then just this year, every year, we offer students to take the ASVAB test. As you can see, this is an aptitude test that is used by the military, and they use that to determine whether or not you qualify to enlist. We offer that every year to students. We actually encourage students, even if they're not interested in the military, to take it anyway. It's a great test to give you ideas of what your strengths are, what are potential topics that you are strong at, interested in. It's a great test just to get information about yourself in terms of potential future planning. So we do encourage all students to take ASVAB, but specifically for the military, this is a test they will require you to take. So I want to get into Naviance. I know we've talked about a lot, and so I'm sure, like I said, through the Q&A time, we'll answer some questions. I want to talk about Naviance because Naviance plays a big role in specifically for our seniors right now. It is all things college and career for our students. Students have access to Naviance. All students just need is their username and password for their Chromebook or for Google to log in. So they have access to this through their class link. And then they just log in with Google and they have access to Naviance. So what does Naviance do for us? Well, one, it provides career exploration. So if you're one of those, if you have one of those students, it's like, I have no idea what I want to do, or I want to do engineering, but that's a really big umbrella of potential careers. So you can go into Naviance and they have a career interest profiler. And there, through that, it will, based on your interest and answering the questions, they will give you possible careers. They will break it down by how much education you need for each career. They'll give you statistics on the career in terms of what does its future look like in this particular area. And they'll give you average income. They'll show you across the country where that particular career is really booming, if you will. So it's a great tool for students. We try to have all of our students take that career interest profiler, but students have access to this at any time. So if your student is a freshman or a senior, they can take that career interest profiler and they can take it as many times as they want. The other thing that we'll use Naviance for is that college exploration. So if you remember when we talked about that research and visiting the college, there's something on there called College Supermatch. And essentially what you can do is you can put in to the Supermatch things that are really important to you. So for instance, the location. Where do I want it to be? A specific state? Do I want it to be in the Midwest? You can also put in things like, do I want it to be in a city? Do I want it to be rural, urban, suburban? You can also put things in like the size of the college. You know, do I want it a smaller college, more private, or am I okay with a larger college like in Ohio State? So College Supermatch really is a great tool to kind of put in what it is your must-haves are and then it'll spit out a list of colleges that match your criteria. So that's a great tool for that research piece to maybe even get started in making that top 5 list. It also will allow you to go in and research and compare colleges. So say you do the super match and you see a list of colleges that match your requirements or the things that you're looking for. It'll allow you to compare lots of information between the different schools, their admissions rates, the average GPA. They do show SAT and ACT scores for students who have been accepted into their programs or into their university. But again, with schools going test optional, I'm not sure how long that information will be up there, but they'll have that as well. So there's a really great research tool for exploring different colleges. There's also a scholarship search in there. All students have access to a national scholarship database. And through that, you can filter it to whether or not it is regional to a specific state. It's a great tool for students. We tell students when we sit down and talk with them about scholarships, we've got kind of 3 categories, if you will. We have the national scholarships, which are usually in a large database that everyone has access to. Then there will be some college-specific scholarships, and that's usually where a majority of the money comes from for students going to school through their scholarships and grants that they're willing to offer for your student coming into their school. And then there's local scholarships. So we have students, every year we work with community members that offer our students scholarships. That the applications for those usually come out at the beginning of February. And then students can come and pick up those applications, or they get posted on the Google Classrooms. And they will then be able to apply to those based on if they meet the criteria for the specific scholarships. So there's lots of different opportunities for scholarships. It's just a matter of where you're looking. And then the other piece we use Naviance for, and this is specifically for our future seniors, is this is where they're going to request their transcripts and their letters of recommendation. So every year we sit down as counselors and meet one-on-one with all of our seniors. And we usually do that between September and October. We choose September and October because November 1st tends to be the early action date for a majority of the schools that our students apply to. Early action is different than early decision. And so early action is the opportunity for a student to apply to that school before their regular deadline. Essentially, it shows the school that you're interested in their school and are wanting to be first in line to be able to apply to them. And so there's no commitment if they get into it, where early decision does have that commitment piece to it. So I encourage, as you guys do that research, looking at the schools, looking at when is their deadline, when are their deadlines, am I interested in doing early action? And then if you're thinking early decision has a contractual legal binding kind of contract to it. Early decision says that if you get accepted to that school, you will not apply to any other school and you will go to that school. If you don't go to the school, then there can be legal actions taken and there can be financial consequences to not going to that school as well. So we talk about this again during our senior meetings with our students. We show them how to request their transcripts, how to request their letters of rec, all through the Naviance program. And then this is kind of our little timeline to-do list for our current juniors. So January through March, maybe you're starting to think about next year. We already have students coming into our offices and asking things about their timeline. Should I be doing this? Am I behind? You know, am I doing, is there something I should be doing right now? And so this is a great place to start. Again, this might be something to take a screenshot of or a picture of with your phone if you have it up. But really the beginning of the year is doing that research, potentially visiting colleges, logging into Naviance and making sure you know how to get into Naviance, maybe playing around with the tools in there. There's a lot of great surveys in there that provide lots of great information for you. Make sure that you are understanding those graduation requirements and thinking about what you've taken already and then what's left for you to take your senior year, making sure you're choosing courses that help you get to that graduation. And then again, March through August, so including summer, you're still doing some of maybe that research piece, visiting the colleges, going to some college fairs. You'll be either choosing to take the ACT or SAT around this time. Again, we're offering it to all juniors next Wednesday. And so they'll have the opportunity to take it firsthand, but then of course can choose to take it again if they want. August and September is where you really want to be starting to finalize your application list. Where am I going to be applying? If you feel like you need to retest, again, I said no later than probably the beginning of September so that you can get the scores back before that early action deadline. This is something that is greatly helpful for students that come to our senior meetings and have already created a Common App account. Common App is, so essentially, you know, back when we went to college, you went to each college's website and you filled out 5 different applications, 10 different applications. Common App came together and said, this is silly. Why are we filling out the same thing 5, 10 times? Let's create a common application that all schools accept. So Common App is primarily where is the application students use to apply to colleges. And we'll go through what Common App does for them in that senior meeting, but it's very helpful if they've created that Common App account before they've come to see us for that senior meeting. And then at the beginning of the school year, most of our English teachers with our seniors start working with them on writing that college essay. But for some reason, if your student is interested in getting started in it, the topics for those are actually listed in the Common App. And so they could begin thinking about a topic they want to write about. Not all schools require an essay. So that is going to be dependent on where you're what schools you're looking for. But yeah, the college essay is something that they will work on in their English classes the beginning of their senior year. And then again, September and November. So this is where we as counselors are trying to meet with all of our seniors and making sure you guys have started to fill it out. There's a lot of information that you can start filling out just on your own. We talk about putting together a brag sheet. A brag sheet is kind of like a resume. What are all the things that you've accomplished and are proud of, so that if you have somebody that you're asking to write a letter of recommendation, not only can they share the great things that they experience with the student, but can also add in some of the other great things that they have on that brag sheet. And then we will talk to them in that senior meeting about how to log into Naviance and actually request the transcripts and the letters of rec. If you get into Naviance or have them get in there and start playing, it's a very self-explanatory kind of program. So you know, you guys are welcome to get in there. Students have access to it year round. And so you could even start looking at, you know, where would we go to request transcripts, things like that. But we will work with them through that. Just kind of as a heads up for your students, next Tuesday and then Tuesday the 19th, we're going to be doing lunch and learns in the library on the 12th and then in the auditorium on the 19th, where students can come down during their lunch periods and we will work with them on their graduation requirements. So they will get a copy of their transcript and we will kind of go through a checklist with them. Well, they'll have the opportunity to see, okay, what classes do I have? What do I still need? And they'll also have an opportunity to try to determine if they've already met their competency and have already earned any seals. So that'll be next Tuesday and the Tuesday after. Students can schedule an appointment with us at any time. This is our the link to schedule an appointment. And then throughout the school, we have QR codes that students can scan on their phone to set up an appointment with us as well. So that's a lot of information. I see some questions, or at least the chat had been going a little bit. And so I can't see you guys because I'm presenting. So I'm going to actually stop. And then Melissa, there we go, can help me with trying to answer some questions. I don't hear you. Oh, you're muted, Melissa.
Sorry about that. Okay. So a great question I got in a direct message is, can parents access Naviance through a parent account?
Yes, so that is coming. I am working with our director of curriculum who oversees.
No, yeah, and it's so boring.
No, you're fine. So our director of curriculum oversees Naviance for the district, and so she's working on with our tech department to get parents access, and we're really close. So a communication will be coming out soon, but yes, you will have access.
Okay, next question. Are the lunch and learns available for all grades or just juniors?
Nope, all grades, all grades. Yep.
Okay. We don't have any new questions, but a question that we received a few times just about that ACT, SAT, and if it's test optional, why would students still take the test? Do we still recommend?
Yeah. I personally think that's a great question. It's definitely made it hard as counselors to give the best advice because they really have created a process where whether you turn ACT and SAT scores in or don't, that does not waver. One does not favor the other. And so they're starting to actually like that process more. I think what it's doing is having them look at the whole student a lot more than just looking at a score. And so that's why I think through COVID, you know, we've learned a lot of new things and things. This has become kind of one of the new norms a little bit. And I think that we're going to see it continuing more and more. But I'll be honest, I would agree with that question. If that's something that, you know, your student struggles with testing, you know, that might be a reason they don't take it. And I would check with the school on their website, their admissions page, to see if they're test optional or not as well. And Melissa, I don't know if you want to jump in too and share anything.
No, I think that's great. The only thing I would add is just that the test is just one piece of the puzzle, just like having an extensive resume or a lot of community service or an amazing essay. It's just one piece of that puzzle. We always encourage students to still test, with rare exceptions. I mean, if there's anxiety happening or there's, I was like, I don't see, everyone's muted, but us. But there are exceptions to where we wouldn't suggest a student test, but generally speaking, we are encouraging all students to take at least that school day SAT to have one test score under their belt. If they want to test again, we would encourage them to take the SAT one more time or try the ACT, possibly take that another time. There are some majors that are still requiring a test score. So just in that research that Mrs. Pronovo is suggesting, that research visit test in the junior year, researching these colleges, and even if they are test optional, doing a little research to find out if there are certain majors. So for example, Cincinnati, their direct admit nursing program this past year still required a test score. So that's just one example. But I agree with you, Mrs. Pronovo. I think it's going to be here for a long time, and I think it's great. Next question for you. Okay. Can letters of recommendation be submitted for students by individuals other than teachers? And how does that work with Naviance?
Well, that's a really good question. So we encourage students when they're thinking about their letters of rec. Most schools want at least one teacher rec. Some require a counselor recommendation, their school counselor. And then if you have a coach, a supervisor, you volunteered somewhere, they absolutely can submit a letter of recommendation, but that won't be done through Naviance. They'll actually directly put that person into their Common App account, where it will send that person a link where they can directly upload their letter of rec.
Okay, next question. Students with an IEP can go to college after high school. Definitely.
Absolutely. These have been great questions. And more will pop up as you go through this process.
Yeah. We had some questions about the senior meetings and how are those scheduled? Can parents attend?
Gotcha. Yeah. So students can schedule through, I sent out like a Google form asking them for some information. And then through that Google form, they will make an appointment with me. And so during that time, of course, our days get booked up pretty fast, but usually starting September, right after Labor Day is when we'll start doing those senior meetings. So you're really after Labor Day, your seniors could start making those appointments to see us for those senior meetings, and parents absolutely can attend. Just let us know and we'll make sure that you get in, and we're happy to talk with both of you.
Okay. Another question, Mrs. Pronovo. If a student takes the SAT now, but isn't quite sure of their plans, do they have to report that score when they do apply to colleges?
Yeah, you do not have to report the score. So when you take the SAT, you have a choice to send your scores to, it'll have a space for you to list colleges that you want to send them to. If you're not sure that you want to use that score, I would not put a school down to send it to, because you can always go back in and send the school or send the scores to that school later on. Now, there is a cost to do it later on. It is free when you're taking it. However, if you're going to think maybe you'll take it again, that will be another opportunity to list colleges that you'd want to have those scores sent to, but you don't have to send scores to schools. And just to add on that, we get students sometimes that will ask us, hey, my scores need to be sent to our schools. As counselors, we don't have access to those scores because that's a personal account that you guys create with College Board or with ACT. And so we don't have access to that. So if you do want to send scores, you either need to have your student indicate that on the test during test day, or when they'll have to log in and request it through their account on their own.
Yeah, so we have not so much of a question, but a statement, just kind of adding information to the test optional. A parent is reporting that they've been told that when a student declares test optional or using a test score on their application and submits it, then they have to submit the test score or not submit the test. They have to follow through with the decision they made, or the application will be incomplete. So
yes,
correct.
Yes, that's a great point. Yes, yeah. So that's where that research comes into play when you're, looking at whether or not they are test optional and what your student is planning on doing. Once you go and submit that application, you need to follow through on whatever you've selected. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, so that's in the Common App. In the Common App, under the test or the school specific questions, they may ask, or if they are test optional, they'll ask. So yeah, it's a great point, like you said, Mrs. Prenovo. The question about, can students with an IEP go to college? Something we said yes to that, but maybe something to mention is just taking a copy of the IEP, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So students that are on an IEP absolutely can go to college. Colleges don't recognize IEPs. However, they do recognize 504s. And so through their Office of Disability Services, I would contact them in terms of getting information about what supports they have for your student based on what their needs are. And then working with your intervention specialist who monitors your student's IEP as they get to, the junior, senior year, making sure they're creating those transition plans so that they are set if they are going to college, with those needs being documented, whether they move to a 504, and it's different for each student. So I definitely recommend reaching out to the school's Office of Disability Services.
Okay, next question. If a student decides to retake the SAT or ACT, then it's on their own, right? Cost, finding the place, administering. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, any advice or suggestions for 9th or 10th grade students about what they should be doing now to prepare if they already know they will be college bound?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So one is those graduation requirements. And so the courses that they're taking, knowing what they need to take to get themselves to that finish line is really important. What I think is great about Gahanna and what is great about where the state is starting to kind of go towards to is this idea of multiple tracks and pathways. They really want students to have options that support what they're passionate about and maybe what careers or things that they're going to study. And so, at Gahanna, we have so many courses. So really thinking about, what is it I'm interested in? Do I think I'm interested in engineering? Maybe I should start looking at our engineering courses, business, looking at our science. We have robotics classes. We just have so many options, computer science classes if they're into the tech world. So we do have a lot. And then potentially too, doing some getting information about the Career Center. So if you do have a freshman next year as a sophomore, they'll get the opportunity to listen to a presentation from our Career Center, and then also take a field trip to visit the Career Center. And they will talk about all the different programs that we offer. And some of again, another great piece of Gahanna is some of those programs are housed here. And so we have our teaching professions program that's through the Career Center, but it's here at Gahanna. And so that could be another tracker pathway that you want to kind of look into and see. There's our bioscience program, and they're just now adding I think it's athletic training program for athletic sports exercise. It's brand new, so forgive me for not knowing the exact name of the course, but they're just adding that. And then a New Albany High School that's close by as well offers some of those career center programs that our students can go to. So I think it's really important that your students are starting to hone in on what is it they're interested in, because essentially that's what schools also are going to look at, have they been taking courses that, that apply to things that they're interested in and they're thinking about studying. So really exploring all of our options and what they might, and getting on Naviance. I will say freshmen and sophomores can get on Naviance, and they can take that career interest survey too, to help guide them in one direction or the other.
Okay, we have a direct message and then a couple additional questions about ACT and SAT. So the direct message is just asking us to point out they feel a lot of universities are requiring ACT and SAT scores for merit-based scholarships. So in my experience, for last year and the previous year, that has not been the case so much for Ohio schools. The schools that we work closely with have, if they were test optional, they did not require the test for merit-based scholarships. However, I'm not going to make a blanket statement that all colleges and universities are test optional for scholarships. So I think that's a great point. Thank you for asking to share that. The biggest piece of advice that we can offer you is to do that research. We will try to do research on our end as well. And we also don't have confirmation from all of the schools in Ohio and throughout the United States on what their policy will be next year. So we will try to keep our students updated as we get more confirmations. So again, we are encouraging you to test. All juniors will test on the 13th. And then we would encourage students to take it one more time, and then they can determine whether or not to submit those scores. There's a question that asks, is it better to submit a bad or low score or not submit anything if a school is test optional? So what I would say to that is do your research. Like Mrs. Prenvo said, check the college or university website and look at that average ACT or SAT score. See if your score is comparable. If it is, go ahead and send it. If it's maybe not, you can also work with your college admissions rep. So all of the colleges have local reps in our area. They often come to our high school in the fall and in the spring. Reach out to them. Let them know, some questions about your application, and they could probably offer advice as well.
That's a good point, and something I think more information will come out about this, but every fall we have representatives from colleges and universities that sign up to come to our school to meet with students, and students have access through Naviance to sign up to come to those presentations. So every year we have schools, and we have lots of them, maybe like 30 different schools that come every year, and students through Naviance can sign up and register to come see and ask the questions, and it's small group. And so they really get kind of more of that one-on-one experience to be able to ask maybe more specific questions about the school and things that they're looking for. So more information about that will come, and we talk about that during our senior meetings as well. But that's something to start, just have on your mind to encourage your students to sign up for those.
Okay, next question. Will colleges and universities still super score ACT or SAT scores?
That's, again, do your research. It depends on the school. Not all schools super score, and some do. So, that's where I would look at the admissions page. Again, I know that's kind of what we keep repeating. The problem is every school is different. And so doing that research and looking and see whether they'll super score or not is important.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. What if a student doesn't want to take the school day SAT, but the parent wants them to?
If the student doesn't, but the parent wants them to, was that what it said? Okay. Well, I mean, it is a school day. So if they don't come to school, they're marked absent. So, but I mean, it's a free test. And jump in too, Melissa. I know you want
Sorry,
to say.
I was like still kind of reading the question. I may
Oh,
have.
okay.
So the student is afraid they're going to miss, I think, schoolwork.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. So it's an altered bell schedule that day. So there are no classes in the morning on SAT day. So they're not missing classes because it is so large and our junior class is so large. We have to utilize our teachers to help proctor. And so with that being said, we don't have classes during that time. It's an altered day. So school doesn't start until like noon or 12:30 that day.
Okay.
Okay. These are great questions. If there's nothing else, and feel free to jump in if there is, we just really appreciate you guys being a part of this and asking the questions. We know that this is an overwhelming time. If you do have juniors that are looking into senior year, we have a financial aid night in the fall where you can come and meet with a financial aid expert that can talk to you about that process and FAFSA. There is, we send out lots of information in Mrs. Williams' newsletter. And so, we will continue to communicate and with you guys and the students. The other thing I'd really encourage you, we're learning that students don't always check their emails, and especially when they're getting into this year of applying and to colleges and letters of recommendation, and we're blasting out, information for about these kinds of things, that encouraging them to be checking their emails. That's really important, and checking their Google Classroom. So their Google Classroom, we post a lot of information on as well. And they don't always check that. So, encouraging them to stay on that is really important.
Mrs. Prenovo, this recording, where will this be posted, or will it be emailed out?
Yeah, it's going to be posted on our school website. And when you first go to Lincoln High School's website, there's the school counseling block right up top. You just click on that, and then it'll be posted right on that page tomorrow. Anything else?
I don't see anything. There was a question about college being excused absences. I said yes to that.
Okay. Yeah. So students have up to 3 excused absences for college visits. That's a great question. Not everybody knows that. Yeah. Anything else? Well, again, we really appreciate you guys joining tonight. We know it's a lot of information. Continue to encourage your students to reach out to us. We're happy to help through this. Make an appointment anytime. Give us a call. We're around. And so we just appreciate you being a part. So thank you very much. Hope you guys all have a great evening. Tomorrow's Friday. Thank you. Thank you.